Since one good turn deserves another, I do owe it to Cog again as to why I know about the Wild Arms series. So I suppose this sort of makes up for that whole Rumble Roses debacle. Though my introduction to the series was anything but direct. Cog had a copy of Wild Arms 3, but it would be some years' time after the fact that I got to try any of the others, and I had to sate myself with the anime Wild Arms Twilight Venom. I'll save my thoughts on that for a future Tomodachi Bros anime review episode. But suffice it to say that all that build-up over the last 20 years has brought me to this point. So join me, won't you, for a closer look at 1997's Wild Arms. Greetings everyone, I am the Hipster Snek, and today we'll be taking a look at the underappreciated Wild West themed RPG, Wild Arms. Developed by Mediavision, a company I don't think I'm super familiar with. Hang on, let me see. Wild Arms, part of Sega's Shining franchise, Valkyria Chronicles, and Digimon's story Cyber Sleuth? Well, shut my stupid Snek mouth then. The game takes place in the fantasy world of Filgaia, in a world only just starting to enter into its industrial revolution. So things like engines are only just now appearing, or reappearing rather, as it's very heavily implied that civilization on this world has already risen and fallen at least once, with engineers and archaeologists thereby serving very much the same job. The game's prologue segment is actually split into 3 segments, between the 3 main playable characters. Rudy Rough-Knight, the silent protagonist and wielder of the game's first arms weapon, or put differently, a gun. His story gets underway when the legend of a potent healing fruit draws a member of his small community into a mine and he has to rush in to save him. However, doing so seems to break the seal on some slumbering evil, and the townsfolk, in need of someone to blame, point the finger at the only person with an arms in the immediate area and exile Rudy into the wildlands. Then there's Cecilia Lynn Adelheid, a princess because, of course she is, and she's also the cleric/mage of the party. She has to solve the riddle of her school in order to unlock her magical potential and learn that something big and unspeakably evil is becoming active once more and that she can't avoid playing a role in fighting back against it. And lastly is Jack Vambrace, the treasure hunter extraordinaire whose opening bits have him rushing through a trap-laden dungeon in a shockingly clever convention of teaching the player how traps and puzzles will work with a hands-on tutorial, and using Jack's Win Mouse Hanpan in a safe environment. Along the way, he learns that the no idea how I'm supposed to say that without any vowels, a now extinct human-like race whose technology dots the planet, and the profit he could turn from it all. Afterwards, the 3 unite and make up the party for the game's duration. Thus, the stage is set for them to battle against the Demon Clan and try to set the world, rapidly shifting out of balance, to rights once more. And to start, the game looks great. I love the anime aesthetic of these early PS1 RPGs that use simple 2D overworld designs coupled with 3D battles. The world is colorful and full of detail, including destructible items you can break in order to find extra goodies. The traps are subtle without being invisible, forcing the player to be attentive and explore their environment with some measure of care when in the dungeons. And the towns themselves are beautifully decorated as well, with rustic, tiny settlements like Surf to the larger towns full of detail. This game is just beautifully designed, and as said, the battles are done all in a 3D enclosed arena, and the polys look great too. Even if I think the default arms firing animation is weirdly funny given that the way the bullet flies forward looks a little stilted, but whatever, I'm already overthinking this. Point is, it looks great. And the music, oh, I love this soundtrack. The opening theme, Into the Wilderness, perfectly sets the mood by borrowing motifs from spaghetti westerns, and particularly Ennio Morricone style from the Dollars trilogy springs to mind. The entire soundtrack oozes style and amazing compositions. Within minutes of grinding around the first town, I found myself bobbing along with the overworld theme. The battle music gets the blood pumping by picking up the tempo, and the boss themes are a thing of beauty. Just masterfully done stuff. The sound effects are all in the same vein, thematically and mechanically appropriate to every slash shot and headlong dash into the wall. Mechanically, the game is just a treat to play. While regular combat is the JRPG staple of exploring towns to restock and upgrade gear, before venturing out into the world at large with random encounters and dungeons to spelunk, Wild Arms doesn't feel the need to reinvent the wheel, but simply make a very good wheel. The combat is fast and fluid, and can be streamlined for repeat battles by setting up behavior patterns for each character at the menu before you even enter combat. This is a curious little thing that I don't see many RPGs do. but you can select from a few different AI presets and tell the character to autopilot, which will help with grinding, which you'll be doing a lot, particularly early on. Though of note, especially in that same early leg of the game, the ammo for the arms is limited and scarce. As memory serves, you'll only ever get one reload clip in Rudy's prologue segment at all, so if you burn the ammo trying to figure out what the purpose of the arms is, you're going to deprive yourself of a powerful tool when the bosses come a-knockin' later on. Couple that with the all-out automation setting, causing him to spam them like they're going out of style, yeah, might want to be careful when not doling out your orders manually. But it's more than just big shooty bang bang powers. Every character has unique abilities, most of which are utilized by using normal attacks in order to build up a force meter. This, in turn, is spent to execute other abilities, such as Jack's Accelerator, which makes him go first no matter what the turn rotation should be, or Cecilia's powerful magical spells. This is actually a system all unto itself, as you'll end up combining them using rare items and selecting from an elemental grid in order to craft the spells you want her to have access to. It's one of those curious yet intriguing magical systems that I've seen in a JRPG, and I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it elsewhere. This extends to overworld exploration as well, as each character will get a set number of tools, limitless use abilities that help them when they're exploring. Early in the game, for example, Rudy gets bombs which let him blow up obstacles in his way. Jack uses Hanpan the Wind Mouse in order to circumvent traps and open chests from afar, and Cecilia gets slightly more technical tools, like a watch that will reset time in a given room in order to reset any puzzles in them, so you cannot become stuck when you're attempting them. And many more beyond that. In fact, the simple mechanic of being able to dash anytime you're not in battle is a welcomed and quirky trait not seen in many JRPGs at the time, and even those that would follow immediately after it, let alone before. While you have to go one direction until you choose to slow down, it's still a huge help while navigating. It's fair to say that everything in this game is very thoughtfully designed, and even the equipment system has its quirks, like a special slot for items called runes that have interesting secondary effects tied to the game's summon system. I won't get too nitpicky about this, but I just adore this game and its fascinating blend of old school RPG fantasy and a dash of Wild West gunplay all at the same time. Where I find fault, and I must because I'm a pedant, is that the English version of this game, in addition to being difficult to come by nowadays, changed a lot of the characters' names. Sometimes in really dumb ways, like transliterating the name Siegfried as Siegfried. The only name in the game I can think of that might have been changed deliberately was Geppetto, whose name might have been obfuscated because the literary reference actually spoils a major plot point I won't touch on. And, as said, good luck getting a copy of this game nowadays. It's only on the PSN network for the PSP and PS3 of all things, and mine committed Sudoku years ago. The most recent release was the PlayStation Classic, and who actually bought one of those? I mean, seriously. The game might be a hair on the grindier side than it needs to be, as I spend a lot of the prologue hours just getting the three heroes ready to start their day. But all in all, Wild Arms is an amazing RPG. It's an outstanding example of the genre, which was unceremoniously swept under the rug when a certain other PS1 JRPG debuted a few months later, but even despite this, it ended up leaving a sizable footprint in its day, receiving mostly positive reviews across the board. And while it did get an HD remaster, Wild Arms Alter Code F, that sadly trailed off when the series fizzled out in the PS2 era. So here's hoping that someday soon we'll be able to revisit Filgaia again, be it a sequel, a remake, or just a re-release. Hey, it happened for my beloved Monster Rancher. Who knows what could happen in the future now? And this has been the Wild Snek, bringing to you another underloved JRPG from the PS1 era. Did you know about Wild Arms before now? Let me know in the comments below. And if you liked today's episode, let me know by hitting the like button. And for more like this, you can hit those subscribe and bell icons too. All of that and more helps me out tremendously. And join me here each week for more Snek Play, Snek Tech obscure reviews, and the new YouTube home of the Tomodachi Bros Review Podcast, Season 2 coming soon. Join me here each week for more, and I will see you there.